Zimbabwe's forests are disappearing. With limited access to electricity, many turn to an alternative, charcoal. Stacks of charcoal bags line the streets, especially in the high-density suburbs of Bulawayo. Although risky, it has become a big business.
Business re charcoal rinotibatsira kuti rotipa like mabenefit like magetsi akanyanya kuinda ndo patinowanawo mari tu kana iko zvinototi like kuno kuseti kudark city vazhinji vanoshandisa marasha chero kuaina chero like toti magetsi futi aenda kune vanawo vanouya kuno kunzvimbo yatiri vazotsvaka marasha zvese nehuni saizvozvo ndo zvinototibatsira kuti nesuwo tigone kudini kurarama.
Mostly the charcoal is coming from outside Bulawayo, having its destination here in Bulawayo. We've got areas around Makokova, Mashumbi Pool, if you know them. We've got areas around Emakandeni. Those work like semi-destinations. Those people that are there, it's like they are wholesalers, they hold them and then they resell to the other areas. So in Bulawayo, it's a hot area. It's one area where we thought if we had the capacity, would want to condone off the area around Bulawayo Metro so that we get the people before they deliver the goods.
Kunotori nevanhu vanotoshanda nezvazvo kungai kwacho saka techitaungela techinohodhawo tongotransporta paside peroad zvekuti like vanomaketa like toti ndobva like kugwanda ndowana nzvimbo yakaiswa kana huni kana marasha tomira ipapo toti kutsvaga ningi zvakati woti zviripo then tongolodhawo tovapa mari then todini neso toya toita basa.
Charcoal is favored as it burns water and longer. A 20-liter bucket is going for US $4, while small paper bags are pegged at $1. The relentless demand for charcoal fuel is high, resulting in an increase in illegal logging. But this seemingly simple solution has a devastating cost. Zimbabwe has experienced serious power shortages for years. This is largely attributed to the slow investment in power generation infrastructure. In the past 5 years, however, the government of Zimbabwe has taken major steps in addressing these challenges, as huge investments in the energy sector, coupled with the inclusion of independent power producers, has resulted in improved power generation, although it is still not enough. According to the Zimbabwe Energy Regulatory Authority, energy supply stands at around 1,338 megawatts against a demand of 1,680 megawatts. Load shedding therefore takes care of the 342 megawatts deficit, perpetuating the demand for firewood and charcoal.
Amagetsi ngabuya ehambe siyancedisana lamakhiwa ukuthengisa inkuni. So siyasiprefer lathi ukuthi amagetsi mayengaba ehamba nje inshoti lawo. Beke bangani basivulela kancane lathi singani siyathola imali kancane.
Unezira utengwa every day mdala. Sithathu yakuzotenga honi ukuthi titoita plan because magetsi ari kunetsa. Magetsi they can go na 4 am udzoka na 10 pm. And then atombo washandise unotomuka atorowa pasi futhi saka we are based kuhuni.
The issue about power outages, load shedding and whatever you can call it, has affected not only Forestry Commission but communities that are residing in the province, in the sense that once there is no power or once there is no energy to use in the home, people will then think of their environment. And unfortunately, what has happened is that it's the tree that suffers. We have got people or communities that are cutting trees to use as firewood. Unfortunately, also we've got another set of community people that have gone further to produce charcoal. They are cutting wet timber, particularly mopane. People are cutting so that they have some form of energy in their homes. And these activities, unfortunately, they are not sustainable. You know, when someone is illegally accessing timber products, they move in unplanned and they do it under the cover of night most of the time. So there's no sustainability that goes into the activities.
New suburbs are coming up in which most are yet to be connected on the national electricity grid. There are about 300,000 households in the country that are not connected to the grid. Resultantly, wood-based energy has become a sustainable substitute because it is largely considered cheap and abundant. Zimbabwe loses an estimated 33,000 hectares of forest cover annually. The Midlands Province, Mashonaland West and Matabeleland North have become hotspots for charcoal production. Matabeleland North Province had 51.6 kilohectares of tree cover in 2010, and in the past 22 years, it has lost 9.61 kilohectares to deforestation. The Hwange district is one of the areas largely affected by charcoal production. Between 2001 and 2023, the district has lost about 312 hectares of tree cover.
Hwange district really have seen a surge in terms of charcoal making or in terms of logging of trees, specifically our mopan, the Column-for-Spoma mopan in biological terms, because of recurring droughts, because of climate change, because of decline in terms of harvest, as well as a lot of issues relating to their livelihoods. So communities have now diverted their attention and then looking into charcoal making, which is a thriving business, of course, but looking at the broader picture where there's destruction of this biodiversity or the destruction of trees, which essentially, mopan, by the way, is a specially protected tree. There's been a lot of destruction, mainly in resettlement areas. Matetsi as a what? That's a hotspot area, where people are even bringing chainsaws and quite a lot of undesired methods and materials that they are using to destroy this particular tree.
It's very rampant in the periphery and outskirts of Hwange town, that is in the rural, getting into the national parks. Communities are involved in logging of illegal charcoal making, in trying to boost their energy, and some of them they export it up to towns like Bulawayo. So we have a challenge, especially for us as climate change advocates. The reduction of carbon sinking in the forests is a challenge, as you know that Hwange town, it's a coal mining town responsible with the fossil fuels. We need these trees to make sure that they carbon sink our excess carbon, while at the same time the mining is in continuation.
While initially charcoal was being illegally imported from Mozambique and Zambia, over the past few years, many Zimbabwean rural folks have taken upon themselves to learn the illegal trade. Loveness Ncube, a resident of Hwange district, has made a living out of charcoal production for over 19 years.
Okwenza mina ngitshisa amalahle ngathathwa umkami engasebenzi. Ngajoyina amazambian ayevele ehlala lapha betshisa amalahle. Yiba bangifundisa ukutshisa amalahle. Sasihamba sasihamba stop izigodo ezazigredwa abantu bekholiari bevula i3 main. Ngokuya sacinga sesingena lathi iganga sihamba sitshisa izigodo zona lezi. Wawula ama-trucks ayebuya ezothenga amalahle khona benkomponi. Ngokujayela ngesystem, u-truck driver lwana wazondingela ikhiwa koBulawayo. Ngaqalisa ukuwoda amalahle khona apha ebanganini ababevele betshisa amalahle. Okwakathesi hayi siyazithengisela enkomponi ngoba amagetsi ayahlupha. Yakwanisa ukuthenga khona okuyabe kukwanisile njengempuphu, isitshebo, asatshisi amanenga ngawo ukuthi singathi esirezeli i-school fees, but ekudleni siyakwanisa ukuthenga ukudla kwendlini.
There was a time my parents mina babengasebenzi, so it wasn't easy for them to raise imali school fees, so they had to venture into charcoal, into cutting down of trees and trying to raise some money. So that way we managed to go to school and we managed to learn.
We have made arrests in the Lubangwa area, if I can mention that one, in under Hwange. We also made some arrests in Bubi, We also made some arrests on the Blawa-Yonkai Road, where we actually work together with Rural District Scouts as well as ZRP. We've confiscated bags of charcoal that will be loaded onto trucks. We have also confiscated loads of logs from trucks on the Bulawayo Highway, and some of them we have been able to get them before they've been supplied to their destinations in Bulawayo. We have got people that habitants in the communal areas, also in gazetted forest areas. Some of them are actually used by these people, or let me call them timber merchants. They do the cutting of the trees, and then the guys from urban areas, they then move in with the transport, lorries and trucks during the cover of night, then they load.
Umkhiwa mina engangivele ngithengisela amalahle yena wazayela itruck. Hayi itruck ngale ibuya ngapha yayithola mina sengothi lamalahle ngapha. Sengisiya ngale angela problem yokudinga imoto but truck yena wayezihayela.
They are primary transporters, where small trucks, T35 as well as small trucks, they transport from the source. Then they take them to a strategic position. For instance, from Wange, they take from Makuyuzwabo at night. Then they go to a truck stop. Then they start loading from there. And then there's also an area in Kurambira as well, where they use coach carts. Because remember, these areas are far away from unknown areas. So they will then probably 1 kilometer or 1.5 kilometers or 2 kilometers. They will then use coach carts or small trucks that can maneuver within small roads, and then they take them into the main roads. And then from there, even trucks that are carrying real coal and also real coke, they're also overburdened, and then they open the cell and then they stack charcoal in those bags, and then they find their way in those areas, Harare, Bulawayo, as well as other big cities within the country.
The authorities are cracking down on the illegal trade, but the demand for cheap charcoal makes it a risky but lucrative business.
Ya endleleni kuyabotshwana ngoba iM yabe igcwele endleleni. Uhamba sincingisana nje kuphela. Ngesikade uchiya kuyi$10 udlula uye phambili uyechiya $10 uzuyefika phambili lapho yakhona.
Atiti like mota ya farm road unomunhu anongopinda mumwe make kuti chinhu chiya chikontinye futi zvichienda kumberi, then iya yafa yacho wosara wachigadzisa zvichingodaro daro. Saka apa it's win and lose. Vavo pavatata like marenja akangosvika andatauri nemunhu ngosvika usimudza ungoisawo ipapo unototizawo kana kutosimudzawo 2 3 zvese huni vanotora voenda ungotangirawo ipapo futi.
The Forest Act Chapter 19.05 stipulates that anyone found cutting, destroying, collecting or removing any tree, timber or forest produce shall be guilty and liable to a fine not exceeding level 8 or to imprisonment for a period not exceeding 2 years. However, the fines are not deterrent enough. The perpetrators see it as the cost of doing business.
This is one area where we've got a problem. And it's an area where we are working together with other environmental agencies, that we work together as a community of environmentalists and approach our legal systems, the judiciary sector, for instance, that they have to review. The fines, at the moment, I would call them the pittance, to the extent that if someone has been arrested, you actually give me a lift back home because the fines are not deterrent. What we are advocating for now are jail sentences, custodial sentences. Hopefully that might awaken the culprits.
You look at the cost and the losses and gains. Look at the biodiversity that you are losing. Look at a tree that has almost lived for 50 to 35 years to 50 years. Someone just take 2 minutes to destroy it. There should be quite a lot of engagement with the judiciary system. Because in as much whatever you can do to try and do the awarenesses and try to apprehend these people to the police, and then also police cascade them to the judiciary system. Maybe it's a matter of understanding the magnitude and the importance of these particular trees. What is it that they have to offer us as people of this country?
We have never had a forestry policy. This is the first time we have had it. And we are going to be launching it at provincial level. It's a very good policy, that also says in communal areas, we want to look at forests that could be gazetted, and we are going to form communities that are going to manage those forests. And people should look at forests as an income, as an asset, not as something that you could just go and destroy. Forests are assets in many, many ways. So we are going to go around to try and educate our people on the potential, economic potential that is in forests.
Charcoal is commonly made in pit kilns. The process involves heating the wood without oxygen. The wood is staked compactly in a pit or in the ground. The stake is covered with grass and then buried under a layer of soil to form the oven or the kiln. The kiln is then ignited with embers introduced at one or more points at the bottom of the stack, allowing carbonation under limited air. When the kiln has been lit, it requires continuous attention for 5 to 14 days, depending on the size. 5 tons of firewood is required to produce 1 ton of charcoal.
It's very, very devastating because, we're talking about hardwood, indigenous timbers, which take a long time to grow, to mature. You're looking at a minimum of 80 years for a tree to mature. And that this is a tree that someone is chopping overnight. When they do their selling, these are people that have poached the timber. They've had no investment in those areas. And for them, it's a quick buck. So they will sell it for a song, for that matter, after having cut that tree, without plowing back to the communities. We've got areas that have been seriously affected in terms of deforestation. That will also lead into land degradation.
According to the United Nations Environmental Programme, deforestation and forest degradation accounts for 11% of carbon emissions. With charcoal production on the rise in Zimbabwe, air pollution becomes a major challenge.
This illegal activity is also causing human and wildlife conflicts, as there is too much interaction with the wildlife, smoke in the bush and the likes, cutting down of trees. As you can check, a full-grown mopane tree takes 150 years to 200 years, whilst a person will just cut that whole tree for $5 or for $6. So that is retrogressive as far as sustainable development is concerned. That is retrogressive as far as the SDGs need to be fulfilled for sustainable development in Zimbabwe.
Between 2001 and 2023, in Matabeleland North, 102 kilotons of carbon dioxide was released into the atmosphere as a result of tree cover loss. In total, 2.34 megatons of carbon dioxide was emitted in the period.
Remember, also talk of carbon credits, and these trees play a very pivotal role in making sure that we sequester our carbon. So the carbon sequestration is also affected by these trees that are destroyed by our communities. So hence really is something really that we need to cascade and also try to, maybe at the ministerial level, the fines really should probably say maybe someone being jailed, like poaching a wildlife costing 9 years, so that this will deter people from ever thinking of doing something that is illegal.
Breaking this cycle requires a multi-pronged approach, investing in renewable energy sources, stricter enforcement of forestry laws, and providing alternative livelihoods for those dependent on the charcoal trade are crucial steps towards creating a clean environment.
I know people are heavily relying on electricity in cities. The demand is very high. They continue to say, we want the commodity, and people always say, we can afford the commodity. So hence, people should also understand to say, this commodity that they want is the one that is causing a lot of destruction in our communities. So hence, people in urban areas, they should probably try to use biogas digesters. They should use gas. They should use solar. They should deviate from using this natural resource, which is charcoal, which is very destructive. There are people that are producing broiler chickens. We are going towards the cold season, and this is where we are going to see a surge or an increase in terms of charcoal making and also in terms of charcoal transportation to these cities.
Hwange Thermal Power Station is the country's major supply of electricity, generating about 844 megawatts, and the recent upgrades of Unit 7 and 8, following an investment of $1.5 million, is a commendable effort. The country has also embarked on several solar projects that are expected to feed into the national grid. There are several operational solar mini-grids which are expected to ease the pressure on thermal and hydropower generation.
By the way, you've got 2 solar farms that are fitting to the national grid. And also in our investment opportunity, when we sell ourselves as Hwange, we say we have got 365 days of sunlight, of sunshine. So hence for those investors that want to do solar farms, Hwange is one such area where investors can come. And also Zimbabwe as a country as well, I think it's doing quite a lot. You can even probably see when you go to rural areas. You see there's quite a lot of lighting that is happening. And the companies as well that make those solar panels and also those that make solar, they should also come to these particular areas, come to our rural district councils, and then also contribute towards uptake of green energy within our landscape.
Yes, we do appreciate there is energy gap, but there is no room for us to do it in a legal way. There are a lot of alternatives that can be tapped. If I can tell you, we need investors and the involvement of stakeholders to introduce other mechanisms. In countries like China, they have got what they call charcoal briquettes that can be made from coal and other products. It's more green fuel energy that can be even used to the communities instead of cutting down of trees.
With the launch of the first ever national forest policy in Zimbabwe this year, there is a glimmer of hope in the protection and preservation of forests in Zimbabwe. However, the fight to save Zimbabwe's forests is far from over.